Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today, we'll be talking about the red warrant that has been issued against the MQM chief Altaf Hussain by the Interior Ministry. The MQM chief is to face court trials over hate speech and also inciting violence. As we all know what has happened over a period of time now, there is this Pak Sarzameen party, there's another MQM Pakistan, and then there is another MQM London. God knows who is controlling the strings at the moment, who is calling the shots. But Farooq Sattar Sahab says that he is the person who is in charge of MQM, as this MQM is registered on his name, and he is the person who is looking after all the affairs. But at the same time, when we hear stories coming out from London, a lot of people, they have a tilt towards them as well. On the other hand, when you look at the Pak Sarzameen party, a lot of former mayor as well as a couple of other former ministers of MQM, they've also joined in the Pak Sarzameen party. There is generally a perception that the party is supported by the establishment, but they have ruled that out as well. Now, what exactly is going on? First of all, the question is, who is Mr. Altaf Hussain? A lot of people believe that maybe he's an agent of RAW or maybe MI6. That is the reason that even when this particular case regarding the money laundering and otherwise the killing of the MQM leader, Dr. Farooq in UK, he came up clear. Who is supporting him? If he is the man who is the real troublemaker, then why can't the UK authorities or the Scotland Yard is putting a grip on him and is taking him to task? Who is covering him? Who is looking after his affairs? Interestingly, this is $1 million question, and we'll try to cover as much as possible regarding this particular character, whose name is Altaf Hussain, who founded this MQM. We have with us in our studio, on my right, is Lieutenant General retired Talat. Masood Sahab needs to introduction as a senior analyst, sir. Thank you very much. We also have with us a senior journalist, Shaukat. Piracha Sahab, thank you very much. General Sahab, let me start off from Shaukat. Piracha Sahab. Piracha Sahab, first of all, sir, will it be a correct statement if I say that this man is an agent either from RAW or from MI6?
You know, there are two things. One is a strong evidence, the other is the circumstantial evidence. All the circumstantial evidence so far which have been pronounced and which have been spoken by so many people, that suggest that Altaf Hussain has been speaking, talking, acting on behest of some powers or some countries or some groups, because his activities so far in Karachi or elsewhere have not been conducive for stability of the country.
That's correct.
Be it the decade-long killings, target killings, then extortion of money, and controlling the nerves of Pakistan by making the Karachi the largest economic hub of Pakistan a hostage. However, when you say about certain empirical evidence as to, I can say that it's in nuts and bolts and it has been proceeded in the court of law, there has been nothing except one that was documented by the BBC and his close associates. They made certain statements. Now, when you talk of issuing red warrant against him, first of all, whether the UK considers his speeches as hate speeches, so far they have not come up with any explicit statement by their foreign ministry or by the Scotland Yard, which is their police system, on the basis of what they will determine that Altaf Hussain made hate speeches against Pakistan and its people, and on the basis of which the Interpol will proceed. To me, simply since it was a domestic court requirement, that court asked his production and his production before the court. That's why I believe the government can say before the court that, look, we are trying our hard. We have issued, we have requested Interpol and through red warrants, and it's up to Interpol to bring him back, because there is no bilateral extradition treaty between Pakistan and the United Kingdom. Last decade, when Mark Lyle Grant was the High Commissioner, UK High Commissioner here, there was an active talk of this extradition treaty between the two countries, but things could not move forward. I don't think any of the big wigs in this country will ever like that there should be an extradition treaty, because somehow London becomes a hub of political activity after every 5-7 years, that all the political
Dubai
leaders,
and London, the two
Dubai
places.
and London, you
Yeah.
know. So that's why, in absence of bilateral extradition treaty, we will depend on Interpol, and Interpol will depend upon the domestic government back in the UK.
Okay.
How this process moves forward, I cannot be certain about it.
Okay. Now, Jalsa, Altaf Hussain. The first thing which comes in my mind the moment I think of Altaf Hussain is target killings, chaos in Karachi, hate speech, violence, calling Pakistan Murdabad, like death to Pakistan. What kind of leader is he, sir? What is he trying to prove?
Well, I think what has happened is, I think we must try to understand the psychology of this individual. I think he has built the entire party initially on his cult. It is a cult sort of a situation where he has promoted his cult to a point where he had his party and his followers entirely in his grip. He did probably certain things initially in order to give an identity to the Muhajir community, and tried to do something which helped in trying to sort of get them some sort of a recognition and a place, a political place in Pakistan. Initially, I'm talking of the initial thing. Why was he able to sort of develop a cult, and why was he able
Mid-80s you're talking about?
Huh?
When this party was launched, mid-80s.
Many years ago. Over the years, what has happened is that he has gone berserk, and he has become, I think he has also lost his balance, and also has been probably very vulnerable to influences, foreign influences.
Okay.
And I'm sure that he has been manipulated by foreign powers to their advantage, and when they have tried to exploit him, he has then used certain language which is so, as you very well described, so unpatriotic, and so, you couldn't even dream of a person who poses to be a leader of Pakistan to talk such nonsense and such in order to subvert Pakistan. Some of his statements truly are highly subversive and controversial.
Yes.
Well, he kept on doing that for quite some time, and there was a certain level of tolerance that was shown by the governments. Of course, there were periods when very severe action was taken against the MQM, but the party somehow or the other continued to gel and stayed united. But I think in the last 2 or 3 years, he had gone to that extent that it was just not possible
His
for
own
the party
workers were like stunned and astonished,
stunned.
yes.
So there is a limit to what one can do, and I think he had crossed that limit many a times, but then the patience of the people also was exhausted. And that is why when a leader is of that type, and the leader, as you very rightly described, also believed in such corrupt practices as holding people hostage, then also trying to collect money through
torture cells,
criminal tortures and criminal activities. Obviously a time would come when the state has to act, and when the state acted, I'm very glad that a certain segment of his party, or a very major segment of the party, decided to dissociate themselves completely from him. And this is but the party lost its unity, which was obvious, because when you have a leader like that, and when a leader who believes in cult and does not promote leadership within the party because he wants to remain a leader for life and even life after. So this is exactly what happens, that the party collapses or becomes very weak when he goes away or when he is discarded. So this is the MQM is going through a certain process, but I think, truly speaking, at this point of time, there is a split between, as you rightly described, between the MQM which is led by Sattar Sahab, and the other which is a defection by the previous
Mayor.
Altaf
yeah. So I think the best thing would be for them to really come to some sort of an understanding and share power between them, rather than, because if they want to preserve the party and then integrate the party with the country and have a party which has a national outlook rather than a very parochial outlook. Because there was a time when you needed to sort of protect the people who had come from, who had migrated. But that period is over. And I think they should look at the things much more broadly and try to sort of make it genuinely a national party. At one time there was a certain move amongst them to sort of make it a national party, but they failed. Because
sir, I'll add something here, Jan Sahab. I remember, I'm not only talking about this election which was held in 2013. They managed to get a seat in Kashmir also, if you remember. And even the election which was held in 2000 after the death of Mahathir Benazir Bhutto, I remember if PML-Q ended up getting 4,000 or 5,000 votes somewhere in KPK for that matter, they also ended up having that kind of a vote bank. So they tried, but still they're limited to the urban.
The leadership was so
Sindh.
poor that obviously it didn't command respect. But I think now it's time. Firstly, of course, I think the first priority of theirs should be to unite amongst themselves, because if they continue to pull each other apart, then there is no likelihood of the MQM surviving. In fact, they will get so divided, and others will then exploit them. And then the people, when it comes to elections, will be so confused as to whom to vote, and other parties might benefit. So if they want to retain a certain level of identity, then they, as a party, then they must have a national outlook, and at the same time they must try to merge and compromise on each other's policies and leadership.
That would be an ideal way forward.
Now,
Piracha Sahab, one more thing. I mean, when you talk about MQM, the general perception again is it's a party of Urdu-speaking people. And that means that you're talking about Karachi and Hyderabad. Yes, they have a lot of presence there. Look at the results. I mean, you can't rule out the fact that they have a very strong base in that area, and they end up winning the seats, whether you're talking about the local body elections or you talk about the general elections. Considering that in mind, sir, and as Jan Sahab mentioned that this man who was leading it, I mean, to a certain level, I mean, he had that absolute command and absolute control, and everybody would be saying, bhai, 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 he had that kind of an image that if somebody disagrees, he's history. But now things have changed over a period of time. Do you think this man still has that kind of, power to unite MQM, or is Altaf Hussain doesn't really matter to MQM?
I think that's a fundamental question, whether still Altaf Hussain has the grip as MQM London is claiming, or whether Dr. Farooq Sattar party MQM Pakistan has the grip, or Mustafa Kamal and his comrades, they have the grip. You have to go deeper as to why MQM was formed. As you are saying that it's a party, it started with party as Urdu speaking people.
Yes.
Basically, we in rest of Pakistan, we did not claim them, or we did not label them at the party of immigrants or Urdu speaking. Their very name suggested that they are the Mahajar Qaumi movement. As they
initially
started,
it used to be Mahajar Qaumi
and then they became Muttahida Qaumi movement. And when myself or you or anyone else say that they win the seats, there are seats, there are also other factors. For example, the demarcation of the constituency, the delimitation, what we call in electoral terms, that these constituencies are delimitized in a way that their concentration becomes in one constituency, and others, for example, Sindhis or Pathans or Saraikis or Punjabis, they are cut into different pieces and slices. That's how, if you look at the Karachi constituencies, urban especially, you will come to know very interesting demarcation, that it's not a curve or it's not a square or triangle, rather it's a kind of tentacles spreading from one area to penetrating to other area. It was especially designed to keep their majority intact by cutting the constituencies in this way that the others, they feel splintered, they are splintered. And then never forget, when people claim here and abroad, that your first question also suggested that they are being funded or they being guided or they have certain connections abroad. There have been traditionally two faces. One has been the political one, that is Dr. Farooq Sattar or Wasim Akhtar or Babar Ghori or others. The other deeper entity of the MQM have been those sector in charge or so called militant wing, that behind the scene for all fear and then action, these political,
they are so organized that the way mafia is.
That's what I am saying, that these political faces, they are poor simple guys, like any other politician in this country, that they do not spread violence. The violent or militant, that's what I was saying, the so called militant wing was hidden one, and that structure in fact used to control the whole Karachi. Now coming back to the very fundamental question, everyone now can claim that people are with them. For example, there is a claim from MQM London that all those people now sitting in the assemblies or in the provincial assembly or senate, they are sitting on the mandate which was given to them on the name of Altaf
Hussain. Yes.
Altaf Hussain. The counter argument is that all these people who are sitting in the assemblies, they remain in touch with the people, they remain in touch on door to door basis or street to street basis, and Altaf Hussain is just a pyramid sitting back in London and controlling everything. The next election, whenever it is held, this is going to determine whether the vote bank is of Altaf Hussain. If the people stay away from the polling station, polling booths, and they do not come forward to vote in favor of MKM Pakistan or PSP. But if the voting turnout remains as one of the highest as it has always been from Karachi,
yes,
then it means that Altaf factor is discarded now, and these people sitting in PIB colony or elsewhere, they are the true representative of the people of Karachi. Never forget that all other political parties, including PTI, People's Party, Muslim League Nawaz, Jamaat-e-Islami, they are also vying for the booty or the dividends coming out from the disintegration of the MQM phenomenon. That's why I say, first the census which is being carried out from next month in March,
yes,
and then the next election will determine whose Karachi is.
No, there's another problem. I was watching Farooq Sattar Saab's show on one of the television channels, and he was very concerned about two factors. One about the constituencies, as you earlier mentioned, about the delimitations, and the second was about when you talk about MQM as a whole. Let's imagine that MQM as a whole. He has serious concerns and some very legitimate concerns also. I think they also need to be addressed. But Jalsa, one more important factor. Whether it's, I've never seen a gathering at 2 a.m. at night. But when you talk about MQM, this man, if he is talking at 9 o'clock from London, that means it's about 2 o'clock in Pakistan, people would be sitting, sir, and they would be obedient like this. And it seems that if somebody is not there, he is going to be in trouble. And on top of that, I mean, we are not idiots, we all know that he is always under the influence of some sort of an influence. The way he talks, the way he behaves. If I may ask you this question, is he normal, sir?
No, I think he is not normal, and that is why as we said earlier, the point is that because he has lost his normality or his senses and has been in decline for a very long time and seems to be an extremely frustrated individual, that is why he lost his grip in Pakistan. previously, people probably thought that they owe it to him because he was able to sort of unite them, get them certain rights, and or at least recognition. Let's call it this way.
There was a time you used to talk sense also.
Yeah, but that is now over. I think that phase is over. He has lost his credibility. He has lost his popularity, and the best part is that with the help of the military, I mean, especially the Rangers, the excellent work that they did, the militant wing of this MQM has more or less been neutralized, or is continuing to be neutralized. And as it gets neutralized, the hold of Altaf Hussain will also, diminish even faster. But the thing is that, the leadership, the cult, the sort of still he was a sort of a binding force. I mean, you have to also go into the minds of those people who still consider him, as you were also saying a few minutes back, that he is still considered to be a leader by them. So, there are people in this world who consider such like individuals also as their leaders. But you don't blame them. It is also, in a way, shows the weakness of the political system within Pakistan. And also it shows that many governments in the past, let's be honest about it, also exploited the MQM to sort of counter.
Musharraf's government.
Well, Musharraf's and
They
many
supported
others.
it, and so many others, yes.
And, let's be honest about it. And that also gave them a false sense of strength, and they promoted practices which were completely in contrast to what a democratic system demands.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, very good. Right. So we've been joined by the former governor and former interior minister, Lieutenant General retired Moin Haider. Sir, Assalamu alaikum.
Ji, walaikum salam.
Jansab, since we were talking about MQM in general, you have been the governor, you have been the interior minister. Now, having said that, sir, first of all, what sort of a future do you see of MQM, sir? Since you live in Karachi, you understand the dynamics.
Yes. I think Mustafa Kamal was the first one who disassociated himself from London, and he came out about many information which people generally knew, but was coming from an insider about target killings, about bhatta collections, and about misguiding youth. And he said we are breaking off from them to bring peace to Karachi. And then, after that is the August speech which Altaf Sahab gave. That, of course, everybody distanced himself from him then after that speech, because for the main MQM faction under Farooq Sattar, it was totally impossible to defend that situation of when he was, raising slogans against the very existence and state of Pakistan. So in my opinion, by and large, Altaf Hussain's connections, of course, still some exist through his committee sitting in London, and they have direct access to some sector in charges or some previous target killers. But otherwise, main MQM faction under Farooq Sattar and Mustafa Kamal, they have, I think, distanced themselves from Altaf. And I think his chapter is by and large closed. And after issuing of this red warrant, which let us see how the British government reacts, because they will say that he's a British national, he is not a Pakistani national who is wanted by Pakistan. And they will, I think, resort to going to the courts and ask us to prove that he made hate speeches or he incited trouble. But of course, there is a lot of evidence which is available. After his speech, television stations were attacked and many places were torched, and there was arson after his speeches. So I think there is enough material available to even go to the royal court there and prove that Altaf Hussain's actions while sitting in London have been very, very damaging and harmful to Pakistan. It is not politics, but it is terrorism that he has been indulging. So
Now,
other things may be difficult to prove about Raw, about other things, but this is very obvious.
But Jalsab, inciting violence, you talk about hate speech, you talk about when he's issuing orders, he's practically threatening people. And we have witnessed, I've lived in Karachi, and I know when I went there for the first time, I joined a private channel way back in 2001. I was told not to say much, or rather, I was supposed to keep my mouth shut against MQM. And since I was a Punjabi and had moved from this particular place, I had no clue till the time I started meeting these people, and then I got to know the kind of strength they had. They were the movers and the shakers in Karachi. On a minute's call, sir, the whole city would be at a standstill. And you know, you've served as a governor, you've served as a...
That phase is over now. I mean, they have not been able to successfully call for a strike in last so many years now. And they tried very hard at one time, but then they knew they couldn't do it. Because people in Karachi want peace now. They are fed up with all this politics of hate and politics of gun and politics of barta and, arm twisting. So I think Karachi has changed, and it is because of also actions taken by the police and by the rangers across the board to bring peace to Karachi. So I think Altaf Hussain has hardly any role left now to interfere in politics of Karachi or influence it through MQM people.
Jansab, is there any information, because perception is yes, but is there any concrete evidence which we have that he has got links with MI6 or for that matter with RAW, sir?
This case of recovering money, a very large sum of pounds recovered from his home and from his office.
$500,000?
Yeah, I mean, $500,000, it was an open and shut case. Everybody knew it has been recovered from him, and he could not prove from where he got the money. And everybody thought that this will be enough evidence to incriminate him, but nothing has happened, and he has been set free. And then the murder case of one of his colleagues, Imran Farooq. So, many times the Scotland people came and they interviewed those people, those killers who have been now rounded up, and I think they're in Adiara jail. And they had, I think, 2 or 3 meetings with them and long interviews with them. So that, I think there was enough evidence. But on that score also they're not moving, which shows that I think, it is a bit disappointing, as our Interior Minister says, that we were expecting some action will be taken by the Scotland Yard and by the courts there. But nothing has happened, which shows that they're, of course, they're giving some sort of help.
All right. Thank you very much, Jalsab.
Thank you.
Now, Prasad, there is a clear-cut division within the ranks of MQM, whether you talk about the London group or the Karachi group or Pak Sarzameen party. Which other political party do you think is going to benefit in the next coming elections?
I think first, General Moinul has made a very significant statement. That's what I was saying, that it all depends upon the policy and intention of the British government. That, for example, you were talking of the laundered money, money laundering is a very serious crime in that the
society.
UK.
Yes, sir.
It's more than the hate speeches, etc. Because on the speeches or certain language or words, they can cover it under the freedom of expression,
yes.
Their tradition and their values. But this money laundering is something very serious. But look at the outcome of money laundering case. That money was recovered from his house,
cash,
and then Altaf Hussain was even exempted from coming to the court or to the district magistrate or whatever the court was. Look at the attitude of the British government. That's what I want to emphasize. This hate speech or other thing, I don't think
these are minor issues.
These are minor issues, and this red warrant is again depending wholly upon the attitude of the British government. If they go to the royal court, then there will be a defendant over there.
I'm sure you're aware of this, that during the time of this particular case, when it was in the court, I'm talking about the money laundering issue, Chaudhry Nisar, the Interior Minister, had a couple of very important meetings with the British High Commissioner.
Yes.
But nothing happened, sir.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And even on the Dr. Imran Farooq murder case, for example, I know this 4 or 5 member team from the Scotland Yard, they were here. One of the killers of Dr. Imran Farooq, or alleged killers of Dr. Imran Farooq, he made a confessional statement that was telecast on all TV channels, but no headway. So, if I as a citizen of Pakistan, if I be optimistic.
Saulat Mirza's case is in front of you, sir.
So, I as a citizen of Pakistan, if I expect that heaven will fall on the hate crime or hate speech when red warrants will be put before the British authorities, at least I am not very optimistic.
Okay.
Now, means Altaf Hussain safe and secure, sitting back in the UK in a very cozy rooms wherever he lives, The political parties we are talking in Pakistan, General Saab is very right that now Altaf Hussain's grip is no more there. Is it your contribution or my contribution? No. This is the operation, Karachi operation, that has made them vulnerable. Otherwise, it could never have happened. So, this also means that Karachi has been a big issue in Pakistan, but it was subject to an operation by the law enforcement agencies. 1992, Nawaz Sharif started this operation. 1995, Benazir Bhutto started this operation. And when Benazir Bhutto was sacked, the first allegation against Benazir Bhutto was that there were extrajudicial killings in Karachi. So, basically the law enforcement component of state policy of Pakistan has never been in the right direction, and this is how within 2 years that a city which you were just saying that it could be blocked at the notice of 10 minutes,
yes, sir.
No one can do it now because of the law enforcement operation. The political follow up has not yet come. For example, all the streets give a look of some trash or something else. There is no civic facilities, no water, for example, no jobs for Karachi people. These political follow up must be there. There have been 2 times in the history earlier before this operation. One was that who created MKM? We should accept it. General Saab was very rightly saying that let us be honest that Ziaullah created this phenomenon. Then in 90s 2 operations, one by
to counter People's Party.
2 operations in 90s, one by one civilian government that was thwarted. The second by another civilian government, by another party, by another leader, by another prime minister, that was thwarted, and her government was sacked because of this operation. Then came General Musharraf, he again strengthened them, he again erected their edifice, which now has been dismantled by a very, I believe, very efficient, this Karachi operation. Efficient, I say, they have tried not to kill many people, they have tried not to harm many people. Even people of Karachi have been cooperating with the law enforcement this time, So, if that is not again, if this operation or the outcome of this operation or the fruits of this operation, they are not compromised on political grounds, I believe Karachi will become once again a city of peace, city of lights and city of happy and joyous.
Sir, Karachi is your financial hub. You can't afford Karachi to be in turmoil. I mean, simple
but
as
for
that.
30 years, blood has been bleeding over there. For 30 long years, never forget it started in 1980s, early 80s, and it lasted till General Musharraf was here.
All right. Now, Jalsa, will it be a wise approach if we just only blame MQM for Karachi unrest, sir? Or don't you think there are other non-state actors there as well? Some religious parties, even some Pashtun groups, they're also a part of that Bhatta mafia and land mafia and drug mafia.
Well, I think you are absolutely right. I think you need to share this blame with, they need to share this blame because each and every party there has committed some very serious offenses. Whether it was a reaction to the MQM or it was on their own, they also had their militant wings. I mean, most of the political parties there had their militant wings as well. And they were also trying to control the areas, not politically, but they were trying to sort of control these areas through mafias. And then they were also engaged in a similar sort of a...
Some of these carried like Baba Ladla, who's recently killed, Uzair Baloch, Rahman Daket, Liari group, and So
as you can count on your fingers the number of...
It can go on and on, sir.
On and on. So I think the whole environment has to change. And it is not just the MQM which has to change. It is all the political parties that have to change. And then I think the PPP, which is the power of in power in Sindh, has to play a very major role. Firstly, I think we need to sort of really look after the city of Karachi. What had happened is that the PPP had thought that as they did not get the votes and it was the MQM which was getting all the votes, they need not bother about the city of Karachi. I mean, I don't know what were the reasons or the rationale for ignoring Karachi the way it has been ignored. I mean, it's really shameful that a city of 200 million people
20 million.
20 million, sorry, 20 million, 2 crores, 20 million people, sorry, my slip of tongue, 20 million people, and it's grossly neglected. I mean, it's unimaginable. If you go through the streets of Karachi, you will realize that there is hardly any garbage collection, nothing of that sort. The roads are broken and there is so much of traffic. Nobody seems to...
Every day the traffic is choked,
so,
it becomes the headlines in the news.
Whom do you really blame? You have to blame the government of Sindh.
The governance, it's bad governance primarily, sir.
And then I think the system of mayorship is a good system, provided you also give them certain powers, certain responsibilities and also finances. If you do that, then at least people will say, okay, well, I mean, these people got everything and yet we're unable to sort of improve the city. And you need some sort of a major operation in Karachi in terms of improving its civic, whole structure, and also trying to you can't just say that we have given, the garbage cleaning to the Chinese or to the Turks or to somebody else. I mean, it's outrageous as far as I can see. You are trying to give such responsibilities which you should undertake yourself. Yes, you can get some equipment from elsewhere, but to say that you cannot manage
or it's beyond your capacity.
Yeah. I mean,
then you don't have a right to rule, sir.
Absolutely. So to me it seems or it's shameful. As a Pakistani, I feel ashamed that you are trying to invite people to do your garbage collection. I can understand that there are nowadays incinerators and so on and so forth, and a lot of technology in order to dispose of garbage, but it does not mean that you should hand over the entire sort of collection of garbage to other countries. I mean, there cannot be a greater shameful act on the part of the rulers. I don't know why they don't understand this, and what sort of an image they are projecting of the country, and what image they are projecting to their own people, that they cannot handle these activities. In fact,
so Karachi was neglected by design by the People's Party.
Well,
they were always in part there.
So
sir.
Let's say we start afresh. We can't really change the past. Correct. But we can change the future,
yes.
We can change the present. And what I'm trying to say is that I think they should rethink about all this. And they should have a lot of cooperation between...
Do you think that such wisdom prevails within the ranks of People's Party?
If it doesn't prevail...
Because if there is no will, there is no point.
Well, if wisdom or will does not prevail, then it's a disaster. Then we cannot improve. I mean, look, in contrast, look at Lahore. I mean, whatever one may say, you may criticize them for some other things.
But yes, they have done a great job. No
fantastic.
Doubt. Yes, sir.
I think Shehbaz Sharif has done a fantastic job. You can't really deny. You can't close your eyes and so you have to. And I think even Peshawar is doing a lot to improve their conditions. And so I think even people of FATA are saying that we must change, and voices are being raised. And I think similar voices should be raised in Karachi. The civil society should get more organized. And I think the political parties, both the PPP and the MQM, have a major responsibility. I think because they are the ones who are in majority over there. And if they don't act and if they don't cooperate in order to improve Karachi, then the entire blame should be on both of them. The question is not so much as to who will lead the MQM. The question is whether these political parties will only be interested in their struggle for leadership, or will they be interested in improving Karachi, Hyderabad and Sindh?
The standards of life.
Yes. And then if they succeed, they have some future. If they don't, then I tell you Karachi would be in total chaos, and whatever development takes place in Pakistan will be undermined by Karachi.
Now, Prasad, if you look at the last 10 years or so, People's Party was in power, sir. They had their government in Sindh, they had their coalition government in KPK, plus also in Balochistan. Other than Punjab, they were in power, and they were in the federation as well. Now, sir, for various reasons, they're only limited to the rural Sindh. Totally wiped out from Punjab, from KPK, all their winning horses, they all lost. You know what exactly happened out there. So, and now Mr. Bilawal is getting up, he's going to be a part of the National Assembly. Obviously, if he's going to compete from that particular area, from where he hails, he's going to win in any way. And then, at least somebody will be there, you know, he is the leader, and then there's a whole group of people, you know, supporting him. Do you think things will change, sir? Or PTI, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, because the kind of gatherings Imran Khan was able to hold, I mean, that's unbelievable, one of the largest in the history of Pakistan. He has an edge as well, sir. Because every Urdu-speaking person, I don't think, is supporting MQM. There are a lot of Urdu-speaking Pashtuns there as well, sir, supporting ANP for that matter. How do you see that equation?
I think we should be very careful when we say People's Party was wiped out, or ANP was wiped out, or MQM will be wiped out. Faisal, why ANP or People's Party cannot hold a corner meeting and they face assassinations, and why other parties whom you are eulogizing as having demonstration or rallies or unprecedented rallies of the history of Pakistan, why it's so?
The Taliban factor.
So,
they were afraid.
So, there is one answer, you know, there is one answer, not the whole answer, one answer, that they been marginalized historically, that they been pushed to the wall. Another example I told you, that the second Karachi operation in mid-90s,
sure,
it became very first allegation by Farooq Lagari that
to use the 58 2B power and
no.
top of the government.
The very first allegation for using 58 2B was that Benazir Bhutto government resorted to extrajudicial killings in Karachi.
Okay.
So, a government whose credit should have been credit of General Nasirullah Babar, that I remember at that time, you know, General Babar used to drive his own car without any security in the streets of Karachi. I remember that, you know, on Shara Faisal and other roads in Sadr area, you know. General Babar used to drive his own car without any security. That was the resounding success of that operation. But again, what happened? So, when you say People's Party or ANP or others, you know, you have to consider the collective political environment in this country, what has been happening. Tomorrow, for example, Asif Ali Zardari or Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, if they, you know, have a big gathering, can you or I or General Saab guarantee that there will be no attack on them? You know,
so we cannot.
This is a problem. But there have been dharna here. Other parties have been having long marches and then, you know, big demonstrations and rallies. Not a single cracker exploded. Why, you know? So, we have to keep in mind, as General Saab was very right, that we be honest, you know. Now, when you talk of Karachi, as I am telling you, the situation is very uncertain. Whatever Pak Sarnamin
even now,
party, even now, yes, whatever Mustafa Kamal claims, you know, you and I have been his jalsas, you know, we have seen his jalsas. Whatever Dr. Farooq Sattar claimed that all the members of the National Assembly or Provincial Assembly or senators are with him, the other side claimed that this is the entire mandate which was won on the name of Altaf Hussain. And MKM London is still sitting, Altaf Hussain writing letters and then making speeches,
he is very much in touch, yes.
He is very much there. So, the popularity of Altaf Hussain or rejection of Altaf Hussain will become obvious in the next general election, and there will be, for example, no candidate of Altaf Hussain can be a candidate or can contest election. For example, if election commission does not allow them, what if the people of Karachi do not come out in huge numbers and the turnout remains
they have
10%,
done
15%, 20%. We have seen in the last by elections 11% of the turnover in Karachi city, where it used to be 60% or 70%. I mean, one of their members, I remember.
Convert.
Yeah.
He won.
So, it all depends upon the mood of the people in Karachi, and that's what I'm suggesting.
And you have to build that mood, sir.
That's
And
what
for
I'm
that,
saying.
do they have the right
That's what
man?
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That the outcome of the next general election will also determine that Altaf Hussain is over once for all, or he can exert his influence still in the streets and highways of Karachi.
So last 30-second comment, sir. Future of MQM, in your opinion?
I think MQM will stay as a party and a very powerful party. But the thing is that it will go through a very serious crisis. It is going through a serious crisis, but I think it will come out of it. And I'm sure that Altaf Hussain would be a thing of the past.
Thing of the past, and if they play their cards wisely, MQM is going to remain in the parliament.
And I think it's good for the politics.
Because unfortunately,
that political parties should continue.
I totally agree with you. And Jalsa, unfortunately, what we have witnessed over a period of time, whether you talk about Pakistan People's
And
Party
then
or
I think
ANP or
there should
MQM, the parties which were slightly left of the centre, they've been eliminated. So that
One last point.
Please.
You know, I think the establishment should not try to sort of configure the parties. They should just allow the party
let
to
the
evolve
people
it.
decide. Let the people decide. Jalsa, thank you very much. Piracha, it was a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz.